أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله وخليله وصفيه وأمينه على وحيه ومصطفاه من خلقه، صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. Certainly all praise are of Allah. Certainly we mention Allah's beautiful names and His perfect attributes. We call upon Him, we invoke Him, we supplicate to Him. Indeed, we ask Him for forgiveness and for help. We ask Him for pardon. We ask Him for a second, a third, and a fourth, and a fifth chance. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to be kind to us even though we are oppressive to our own selves. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to be merciful to us even though we don't show mercy to our own souls when we sin, when we disobey Him, when we are heedless and reckless, and we don't give enough forethought to our deeds and our actions. We seek refuge in Allah. We seek protection with Allah. We seek a safe haven with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the nasty things that we have the ability to perform and the dark deeds that we have the power to carry out. The negativities and the base evil things within our souls, we ask Allah to protect us from them. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to keep us from the consequences and the ramifications and the bad outcomes of those poor decisions and of those hard works. Those who are guided to the straight path of Al-Islam. Those whose eyes are open, and those whose ears are clearly open. and those whose hearts are clearly open and breasts are expanded, it's because Allah made them so. Allah guided them. Allah gave them the gift of guidance. He chose you from among 100, from among 1,000, from among 1,000,000 people, from among 1,000,000,000 slaves, human beings upon the face of the earth. He chose to guide you to Al-Islam. And those whose eyes are shut and their hearts are hard and rusted and black, and those whose ears are fastened tight, those who are misled, those who cannot see, they cannot feel, they cannot taste, they cannot experience anything from the truth, it's because Allah Azza wa Jalla chose for the guidance not to come their way. And He didn't want to give them what He gave you, even though there are other things that He could have given them, of wealth, of strength, of power, of beauty, of family, of lineage, of genealogy. But the guidance is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah could possibly give this worldly life to those whom He loves and those whom He loves not. He could give the worldly life, wealth, status, strength, having the ability to be the leader and the successor in the land. He can give it to one of His chosen slaves and from the most hated of His servants. But al-Islam and al-Iman and the concept of hidayah, of guidance, Allah only gives it to those whom He loves. So be grateful, be thankful, and be mindful that Allah chose you and He guided you. And what are you going to do? What is your plan to preserve that guidance? What is your plan to keep that blessing and keep that gift intact and to maintain it? How are you going to allow the guidance of Allah Azza wa Jalla to flourish and to grow? Or are you going to allow it to stagnate? And will you ignore it and abandon it and neglect it? And perhaps Allah may take the gift back. Perhaps the gift will be taken back from you if you do not appreciate it. And maybe, just maybe, Allah Azza wa Jalla will bring a people, will bring another man or another woman, another community, another race, another congregation, another society who will be thankful and who will be grateful. And they won't behave as we behave. And they'll be better servants to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to protect us from this. I've been witnessing and I testify that Allah alone for any partner deserves to be worshipped. And I've been witnessing and I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is His servant, His slave, His messenger, His apostle, the caller to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Siraj al-Munir, that burning lamp, that bright lamp, the one who calls to guidance, the one who invites to guidance, and the one who had care and concern for His followers. And He never wanted any harm to come near to His followers. And He only wanted the best of His followers. And for that reason, we say, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, may Allah send prayers upon Him. May His name be extolled, raised, and exalted. May the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam be mentioned among the highest company of angels. May Allah be pleased with His companions, His family members, His wives, His children, and all of those who follow the good word to proceed. The most truthful speech is the speech of Allah, the Quranic Kareem. And the most excellent guidance is the guidance of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. As-sunnatul mutahhara, the authentic sunnah. And that which isn't in the Quran, and that which is not in the authentic sunnah of worship and of religious devotion, it is misguidance. It is an innovation. It is something which is made up. It's something that you conjured and that you thought about and you put together after the death of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu and his companions. And anything which was done and made up of religious devotion, not of worldly things. And the worldly life, the Muslims should innovate. When it comes to worldly things, the Muslims should be at the head of innovation. We should make things and create things and build things. We should patent things. We should invent things. Our mind should always be moving forward with regards to our worldly affairs. As far as the religious devotion, the service to Allah, then that is something that is ancient, and that is something that must remain ancient. And it can never ever be renewed, and it can never ever be made anew. There is no new way of Islam. There is no update about Islam. There is no 1.0 or 2.0 about Islam. As far as your worldly affairs, means of travel, medicine, navigation, these things, then it's praiseworthy to innovate. It's praiseworthy to explore. It's praiseworthy to make things and not to become stuck in the past. But as far as your faith, as far as what you believe in, as far as your morality, as far as your character and your conduct and your behavior, then it's supposed to be as old as time. Truthfulness never gets old. Honesty never gets old. Chastity never gets old. Strength and courage never gets old. Submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having a soft and tender heart never ever gets old. And the way of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the simplicity of how he did things, how he performed the worship, never ever gets old. And the moment that you think the opposite, the shaitan has won the battle. And he has tricked you, and he has caused you to fall into innovations which have no other place except for the fire of hell, that evil abode which asks Allah Azza wa Jalla to protect us therefrom. أما بعد قال الإمام البخاري رحمه الله تعالى في جامعه الصحيح حدثنا سليمان أبو الربيع قال حدثنا إسماعيل بن جعفر قال حدثنا نافع بن مالك بن أبي عامر أبو سهيل عن أبيه عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أنه قال آية المنافق ثلاث إذا حدث كذب وإذا وعد أخلف وإذا اؤتمن خان أو كما قال والحديث أخرجه الإمام مسلم. The topic of today's sermon, my dear listener, my dear brother, my dear sister, is something of imminent danger. It's something that each and every single faithful and dutiful believer is ultimately terrified and scared and petrified of. It is something that if you're not afraid of and you're not fearful of, then in most cases you will fall into it. And in most cases you will be from among that thing that you feel safety therefrom. It is a thing that is so contrast, so different, so unique from one human being to the next. One person looks at this thing as a mountain about to fall on his head, and another human being looks at it as a fly or a mosquito or a gnat or a piece of dust, something of trifle mention, something that has no worth, no big deal, no worry. I flick it off of my nose. That's one human being. And another human being is afraid and terrified and scared, so afraid that he may use violence and he may threaten someone to give him and to tell him that he isn't from among that thing or those people whom he's afraid to be from among. And you may share the same DNA. Your brother, your mother, your father, your sister, your aunt, your own son. You share the same flesh and blood. He looks at it as a mosquito. He looks at it as the wind, as dust, as rain. And you look at it as a mountain about to crash down and fall upon you. Subhana man fawata bayna ibadihi. How perfect is Allah, who has made his slaves so different. Unzur kayfa faddalna ba'dahum ala ba'din. Allah says, look how he made the servants different. Look how they look the same. They come from one womb, but they are like night and day in their belief, their mindset, and their characteristic. So what I want to talk about today is something that I'm afraid of. And it's something that I must be wary of. And it's something that you have to be afraid of. And you have to be wary of. And that is the scourge of an-nifaqu wal-munafiqeen, of hypocrisy and of the hypocrites. The believer is afraid to be from among the hypocrites. And the munafiq feels safe from hypocrisy. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, what did he say to Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman? How did he threaten him and to do some type of physical harm to him? And he said it over and over and over again. Had Sammani Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There was only one person who knew the munafiqun by name, who knew them. He had a list of them. And there were some stages and some times in which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't know who the munafiqun were specifically. But there was a time in which he was given those names and who they were and their evil, ugly characteristics. And he told Hudayfa radiallahu anhu who they were. And Hudayfa had a job. And he had a duty, and he had to keep the secret of the Prophet ﷺ. And Umar radiallahu anhu, he knew this. He knew that Hudayfa had the names of the munafiqun. So he went to Hudayfa, and he says, tell me, am I from among those whom Allah has mentioned? Tell me, am I from the munafiqun? And obviously Hudayfa, he kept his duty. I cannot tell you. The messenger said, I cannot tell anyone. Even if you're from the furthest from the munafiqeen, and from the last of the people who will ever be mentioned in this list, I cannot tell you. It's an amana. And Umar radiallahu anhu, he asked him again and again and again, and as if he threatened him, and as if he used some of his physical prowess, you will tell me, and if not, you will have a problem. And then Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he told Umar ibn Khattab, lesta minhum, you're not from among them. وَلَا أُزَكِّكَ, or he says, وَلَا أُزَكِّ بَعْدَكَ أَحَدًا. Okay, I'm going to call it رضي الله عنه. He says, and I won't spill the secrets to anyone else. No one else will ever get the information, but you are not from among them, O Umar ibn Khattab. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he was scared. He was afraid. He was terrified for being from among the munafiqun. But why was he scared to be from among the munafiqun? And how could Umar radiallahu anhu be afraid of being from among the munafiqeen? And he prayed, he fasted, he made hajj, he made umrah, he made jihad in Allah's cause, he spent his wealth, and he was from the most knowledgeable of the companions. How was this possible? And if it was possible, why was he so afraid? Why is being from the munafiqeen such a terrible thing? Allah the Mighty and the Most High, in the Quran and Kareem, He explains to us the evil traits of the munafiqun. From among those traits is that they are stingy, they are miserly, and they are niggardly. They do not spend their wealth. They have short arms and deep pockets. They don't give in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And being stingy and miserly is a disease and it is a sickness. It's a disease and it is a sickness. Allah has explained to us that they are cowardly. They're yellow bellies. They have no courage. They have no strength. They don't have the ability to move forward for anything. And being a coward is a means of punishment in this life, in the grave, and when you are resurrected. If you're a coward, you cannot achieve anything in life. If you're a coward, you can't achieve any goals in life, let alone be a Muslim, let alone be a mu'min, let alone strive in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the attributes of the munafiqun is that they are lazy and that they are lethargic. They're slacking people. And if you're lazy and if you're lethargic, what can you accomplish of the deen? What can you accomplish of the dunya? Can you go to the NBA? Can you play basketball and you're lazy? Can you save money and be a successful businessman if you're lazy? Can you invest in real estate and houses and homes and lands? And if you're lazy, it's impossible to succeed if you're a lazy and lethargic person. Let alone if you're lazy about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the greatest thing and the most important thing that we perform on a daily basis is the prayer. It's a salah. As-salah, as-salah, wa ma malakat aymanukum. Inna ahamma a'malukum indi salah. Umar radiallahu anhu said to his governors, he said to those who are in charge of the different lands and provinces and principalities, he says, Inna ahamma a'malikum indi salah. The most important thing for you to look after is not the alms tax. It's not the kharaj and the ushr. It's not the tax on the land and the agriculture. It is not the hudud, but it is as-salah, the prayer. That's the most important thing to do, is make sure that people are making the prayer on time in congregation. Make sure that they have a suitable imam, a suitable leader. The most important thing is the prayer. From the attributes of the munafiqun that Allah has informed us of is that they lie, and that they are habitual and pathological liars. As we say, they lie like rugs, they lie like carpets, they lie like the sidewalk, the concrete that you walk upon, they lie. And they never ever tell the truth. They are dishonest people with themselves. They are dishonest with Allah. And they are dishonest with the other believers and with the non-believers as well. They don't have anything which is truthful from among them. What can you achieve in life? How can you be successful and enjoy your success if you are not truthful? No matter how much money you have, you cannot sleep at night. You cannot enjoy your meal. You cannot drive down the street without looking in your rearview mirror if you're a dishonest person. The most luxurious car that you drive, you cannot enjoy it because you're dishonest. And you only obtain that car through dishonesty. You only obtain that money through dishonesty and through deceit. So in actuality, you can't enjoy the worldly life if you are having a peace and if you're not at rest with yourself. And how can the liar be at rest with himself? From the evil traits of the munafiqun that Allah has informed us of in the Quran is that they mock and they make fun. They laugh and they jest. They make fun of Allah wa liyadu billah. And they make fun of the believers. They ridicule people. And they try to verbally abuse people and humiliate people. And it's a major manifestation of mental deficiency. It's for you to laugh at someone that should not be laughed at. It's for you to mock someone and you yourself may do the exact same thing. As the Prophet ﷺ censured the companions when someone was praying. And one of the natural human things took place that broke their wudu and broke their prayer. And the Messenger of Allah ﷺ says, he says, do you laugh at that which you yourself do? Do you laugh and make fun of someone for that which you do as a human being. So laughing at someone, mocking someone, making fun of someone, and ridiculing someone who is sincere and giving, only thing they have to give is a major manifestation of lack of intelligence. And Allah Azza wa Jalla has described the munafiqun as that they make fun of people and they laugh at people. And the greatest from among that is that they laugh at Allah Azza wa Jalla. And they mock Allah and they wish to ridicule Allah. But we all know who has the last laughed. And the greatest and the ugliest thing from among their characteristics is that they have forgotten Allah, the Mighty and the Most High. Nasu Allah fanasiyahum. Inna al-munafiqina, Allah says that they have forgotten Allah. Nasu Allah, they've forgotten Allah. And that's the greatest thing. And if you forget Allah, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? How are you going to live? If you forgot the one who gave you everything that you possess, everything that you have, everything in your power and your possession, you have forgotten about. What do you want to do as a Muslim? Stop practicing Islam right now. If you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if Allah is not the greatest, the biggest, and the most respected in your heart and in your mind, and the one whom you are afraid of seeing you when you do wrong, لا تجعل الله أهون الناظرين إليك. It states in the narration, do not make Allah the most insignificant of those who see you. يستخفون من الناس ولا يستخفون من الله. وهو معهم إذ يبيتون. Allah says they hide from men. They seek cover from men, but they don't hide and they don't seek cover from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Even though Allah is with them, even though Allah sees them, He hears them, and He records everything that they do. So the munafiqun waliyadu billah, to sum up their bad and terrible state, is that they lack intelligence. They lack brains. They have no smarts. And everything which is supposed to help them and benefit them in this life and then thereafter, they do the exact opposite. Let alone that they lack faith. Let alone that they lack iman. But they don't have no brains whatsoever. So how can you be from among them? And how can you guarantee that you're not from among them? How can you look at it as a small thing, as a minor thing, as a trivial thing, a fly that lands upon your nose and you flick it away? Rather, being from the munafiqeen is supposed to be the greatest fear that you can possibly have. It's losing Allah's gift. Losing the gift of al-hidayah. And when you wake up in the morning, that has to be on your mind. When you go to sleep at night, that has to be on your mind. When you walk, when you ride, when you fly, when you drive, that is supposed to be on your mind. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to protect us from being from among the munafiqeen and resisting them in their evil, ugly actions. الحمد لله وكفى وصلاة الله وسلامه على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam said, Ayatul munafiqi thalathun. There are 3 signs of the munafiq. 3 indicators of the munafiq. 3 things that I want you to wait a few seconds. Stop, keep silent, don't even blink, and check yourself. And prepare yourself to see if you have these 3 characteristics. إِذَا حَدَّثَ كَذَبَ. Whenever this person speaks, he never speaks the truth. Whenever a person opens his mouth, it's a lie. It's an exaggeration. It's the stretching of the truth. It's something which isn't genuine and it isn't authentic. وَإِذَا وَعَدَ أَخْلَفَ. And when he makes a promise, when he gives his word, when he says, I will do it, I will be there, I will, أَخْلَفَ. He never ever fulfills his promise. وَإِذَا تُمِنَ خَانَ. And when a trust is given to you, can you hold my money? Can you hold my possessions? Can you hold my property? Can you take care of this for me? Can you hold this bag? Can you look after me? Look after my phone? Khana. He's treacherous. And the person steals your money, loses your property. The person is reckless and irresponsible with regards to the things that you put in charge of him, no matter how long you are gone. And we all know the virtue of a trustworthy and a reliable friend. You're going to jail. I'm turning myself in. I need you to hold this suitcase for me, please. Please don't open it up. Just hold it for me. And I was waiting for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I came back and the suitcase is just like the day in which I left it. The money that I handed you, there's not a dollar missing. Nothing is wrong. You didn't go through my phone. You didn't go through my personal possessions. There's nothing like that. A true friend, a trustworthy and reliable brother. Someone that you give him or her something and you have no doubts that the thing is going to be exactly as you left it. This is tremendous virtue. And this is something that you may not find in life. And if you have a trustworthy friend and a trustworthy brother, a trustworthy sister like this, then Allah has truly blessed you. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Ayatul munafiqi thalathun. 3 signs of the munafiq. Which of the 3 signs do I have? A'udhu billah, do I have all 3 signs? How many lies do I tell? How many promises do I break? And how many trusts do I violate? And how treacherous am I? Ask yourselves this question. The scholars of Islam, they look at this hadith, and they say that this hadith, from many aspects, is problematic. Hadith al-mushkil. How can the signs of the hypocrite be these 3? And there are many Muslims, many believers, who love Allah and His Messenger, but they lie. You lied to your wife before you came to Jumuah. You lied to your husband. You lied to your son. You lied to your own children. Bring me this and I'll give you this toy. I'll take you out. I'll buy you this. I'll treat you out. And you never treat them out. Rather, you may lie to your pet. You may lie to a cat. You may trick it and deceive it. You may lie to your non-Muslim neighbor or your co-worker or your boss. How many lies did you tell a day? How many lies have you told? How many promises have you broken? And how many trusts have you violated? So they say, how can a Muslim be a munafiq? And there are many Muslims who lie. And there are many Muslims who break their promises. And there are many Muslims who violate their oaths. So the scholars, they differ on exactly what this hadith means. And some of them say, an-nifaq al-amali, is that what's meant by hypocrisy in this hadith is hypocrisy of deeds. And not an-nifaq al-akbar, alladhi huwa an-nifaq al-i'tiqadi. الذي هو إبطال الكفر مع إظهار الإسلام. As they said, this hadith is hypocrisy, meaning you're a hypocrite. You don't practice what you preach. You stand on the minbar, you tell people to fear Allah, be mindful of Allah, give their wealth, but oh Imam, we don't see you doing these things. We see you breaking your promise. We see you, we see you. We see you saying the word of life is worthless, it has no value, it has no worth. But look what you wear, look what you drive, look what you eat, look what you drink. You're a hypocrite, meaning you're a Muslim. You love Allah, inshallah. You love His Messenger, but you don't practice what you preach. You tell lies, you break your promise, and you don't keep your trust. But it doesn't mean that you're a munafiq, meaning someone who hates Allah and His Messenger, waliyadu billah. And someone who keeps kufr in his heart, but he professes Islam. My name is Abdul. But deep down inside, I'm pleased with being James, waliyadu billah. Deep down inside, I don't believe in Allah or the last day. But when I come to the masjid, assalamu alaikum. I come to the Eid, assalamu alaikum, for a worldly gain and to hurt and to harm the believers. So many scholars of Islam, they say that this hadith means ayatul munafiqi thalath, yani al-nifaq or nifaq al-amal. It's hypocrisy of deed. Hypocrisy of deed and not hypocrisy of creed. Hypocrisy of deed and not hypocrisy of creed. And there are other interpretations that the Prophet ﷺ warned us from imitating them and taking their evil and horrible way. The other interpretations with regards to what this hadith means. At the end of the day, whether it is the first interpretation, the second, the third, the fourth, or the fifth, the 5 main interpretations of this hadith, it is dangerous. It's dangerous. And there has to be a connection between lying and nifaq. There has to be a connection between a promise and breaking it and nifaq. And there has to be a connection between violating your trust. There has to be a connection. Due to the fact that the munafiqun are so dangerous, and nifaq is so dangerous, Allah Azza wa Jalla gave them the greatest amount of attention. The very first chapter in the Quranic, Surah Al-Fatiha, and the following chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He speaks about humans. And He speaks about His servants in 20 verses. 20 verses. Allah says, Alif Lam Mim. That's verse number 1. And then those next 20 verses, Allah, He talks about all of His servants. And He divides them into 3 categories. He talks about the believers. He talks about the open plain disbelievers. And He speaks about those who are fake and phony. Those who claim belief, but in actuality they are disbelievers. So Allah, He speaks about the believers in 4 ayat, 4 verses. And then He talks about the disbelievers in 2 ayat. And then He talks about the munafiqun in 13 ayats. So look at the mathematical equation now. 4, 2, 13. 4, 2, and 13. So if you had 20 hours out the day, not 24, 20 hours. You spend 4 hours doing this, 2 hours doing that, but 13 hours doing that. What is the most important thing? The most dangerous thing? The most substantial thing? The thing that you spend 4 hours doing? 2 hours doing? Or 13? Of course you know the answer. It isn't the thing that you use 4 hours to do. It isn't the thing that you spend 2 hours doing. But it is the thing that takes and swallows and consumes 13 hours out of 20 hours. The most dangerous thing, the most important thing, the most costly thing will consume the most time. So Allah, He spoke about the believers, that the book about which there is no doubt, Hudan lil-Muttaqin, guidance for the pious. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Allah talks about the believers and their praiseworthy attributes. Their praiseworthy attributes, but only in 4 ayats. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. Those who believe, whether you warn them not, makes no difference. Whether you give them dawah not, it makes no difference. Those whom Allah chooses not to give guidance, it makes no difference. And He only talked about them for 2 verses. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla goes on to expand and expound upon the munafiqun in 13 ayat. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ. And from men, there are some men, of those who say, آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَا هُمْ. Allah says, and they are believers. They say that they believe in Allah on the last day, but they are not believers. And then Allah talks about them, and how they're warned, how they make fun of people, what the believers say to them. And Allah makes 2 examples about the munafiqun. ضرب لهم مثلين مضروبين أحدهما ناري والآخر ماء. Allah talks about fire and He talks about water. Fire and water. He speaks about the hypocrites with 2 natural elements, fire and water. And these 2 examples are reminiscent or representative or symbolic for Iman and Kufr. Iman and Kufr. The light that is provided by the fire and the darkness that a person suffers when the fire is put out. And the water that is sent down, the rain, the thunder, and the lightning, and how the hearing is snatched away. It comes and it goes so quickly, you barely see it. You hear it before you see it. Thunder and lightning, and the warning and the punishment of Allah Azza wa Jalla, but it doesn't help them, and it doesn't give them any type of benefit. So Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah talks about the people and the types of people. Which of the 3 are you from? Are you from the first 4 verses? Are you from the 2 verses? Or are you from the 13 verses? Which of the 3 are you from? So with this being said, brothers and sisters, if hypocrisy is so dangerous, and so scary, and so terrifying, and so horrible, and if it's possible for Umar radiallahu anhu to be afraid of falling into nifaq, then what about us? And how do we protect ourselves from hypocrisy? What guarantee can I make for myself? What warranty can I give myself that I'm not from among the munafiqun? Because you warned us, you've shaken us up, and you've scared us. But now give us the solution. And don't just talk about the problem. Don't just talk about the negative thing, the negative element. But now give us some positive hope. How do I protect myself to be from among the munafiqun? قال العلامة ابن القيم رحمه الله تعالى ورضي عنه فإن في ذلك تحذيرا من فتنة المنافقين الذين غفلوا عن ذكر الله عز وجل فوقعوا في النفاق. وسئل بعض الصحابة رضي الله عنهم عن الخوارج منافقون هم؟ قال لا، المنافقون لا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا، فهذا من علامة النفاق قلة ذكر الله عز وجل، وكثرة ذكره أمان من النفاق. والله عز وجل أكرم من أن يبتلي قلبا ذاكرا بالنفاق، وإنما ذلك لقلوب غفلت عن ذكر الله عز وجل. انتهى كلامه رحمه الله تعالى. As far as Surah Al-Munafiqun, there's an entire chapter, not Surah Al-Baqarah, not Surah Al-Imran, not Surah Al-Nisa, in which Allah talks about the Munafiqun, Surah Al-Tawbah. Rather, there's an entire surah with the title Al-Munafiqun. And what is the last thing that Allah mentions in that surah? After He talks about the Munafiqun and their evil traits, and what they do, and what they plan, and what they plot, Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tulhikum. O you who believe, O Muslims who are not munafiqun, O faithful people, la tulhikum, do not be preoccupied, do not become too busy because of your money and your children and dhikrillah. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ. Allah says, and whoever does that, then they are the losers. So Allah makes a connection between nifaq, between the munafiq and between the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And that's why the last part of that surah, he forbids and prohibits the believers from being preoccupied from his remembrance. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he says about this verse, فَإِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ تَحْذِيرًا مِنْ فِتْنَةِ الْمُنَافِقِينَ الَّذِينَ غَفَلُوا عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. In this verse, Allah warns us from the fitna of the munafiqs. He warns us. Those who are heedless from Allah's remembrance. Those who are heedless from Allah's remembrance. One of the companions, when they was asked about the Khawarij, those people who went astray, those people who lost guidance, are the hypocrites? This companion says, La. He says, of course they're not hypocrites. Because the munafiqun, they only mention Allah just a bit. And the Khawarij, even though they were misguided and they were misled, when the Sahaba passed by their camps, and when they came near to them, they heard the buzzing of bees. They heard the buzzing of bees, meaning they were making dhikr of Allah. They were reading the Quran in abundance. If I went into your house, how many bees do I hear buzzing? How often does your home buzz with the dhikr of Allah, with the Quran? Your phone, how many Quranic apps do you have on it? Your tablet, how many Quranic apps do you have on it? When you get in your car, how often do you listen to the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla? And the greatest of Allah's dhikr is His kalam, His speech. How often do you remember Allah? How often do we listen to the Quran? So this companion says the Khawarij, they were not munafiqs because they mentioned Allah too much. And that is the sign of hypocrisy. Qillatu dhikrillah. Is that you only mention Allah just a bit. And mentioning Allah abundantly is safety and protection from hypocrisy. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah says a beautiful, beautiful statement. He says, Wallahu akramu min an yabtaliya. He says, Allah is too kind, too merciful, and too generous to put hypocrisy in the heart of someone who mentions Him abundantly. He's too generous for this. Allah would never do this. You may be afflicted with this, you may receive that, this may take place, but nifaq will never come upon the heart that is bursting with his dhikr. Rather, nifaq is only for qulubin ghafalat an dhikrillahi azza wa jal, for hearts that are heedless, hearts that are empty, and hearts that are void from Allah's remembrance. Indeed, the message is clear. Indeed, the words are clear. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to allow us to take and to accept this clarity and to mention Him, and remember Him abundantly. We ask Allah the Mighty and the Most High to protect us from being from among the munafiqun, and to be safe from their fitna, and to protect the Muslims from the harm which they can, will, and have done to the people of Al-Iman. Wa subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun al mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة